All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over the PowerPoint presentations for Murox ASP.NET 4.6 with C# 2015 6th edition. We are working on the last chapter of the book, which is Chapter 25. According to the slide count, I'm about halfway through, but I'm actually a little further than that. So we're going to talk about now how to work with views. And in this lecture, we'll talk about layout views, regular views, and strongly typed views. All right, and that's what the subject of this entire video will be. So, the author mentions on the top of page 882, and this is figure 25.9. At this point, you know how to create an MVC application, how to set up a model, a view, and controller components, and how to retrieve data in a controller. The next step is to learn to present the data to the user with views. So, the layout view is stored in the _layout.cshtml file that's created by default when you create an application using the MVC frame or template. This view is in the shared folder, and it contains the code that's shared by multiple views in the application. It's sort of like a master page that we talked about in Chapter 9. What you see here in the figure, and it's on this slide and the following slide and the one after that, so in the next 3 slides, is the layout view for the shopping cart MVC application. This layout view is based on the default layout view. The only changes made are the names and the routes of the links and the order of some of the HTML5 elements. The highlighted areas that you see on the next 3 slides were all part of the layout view by default. So what you notice when you look in here is the layout view in this figure contains the render body and the render section methods. These are similar to the content placeholders that you have in a master page. The render body in the main element renders the HTML for the view. The render section that's in the footer renders anything in the view that's within the @ section that's in the footer block. The render section below the footer works the same way. Now, a view is not required to have code blocks like this. Okay? The layout view also contains the styles.render and scripts.render methods. Those are used to link the style sheets and the JavaScript files. There's the styles render and there's the scripts render. They are called bundled scripts and styles that we learned about earlier. If we wanted to, we could add other script and link elements, okay, as necessary to this view. Now, the scripts render method appears at the top of the page, both in the head and at the bottom page just before the closing footer. This is because it's good practice to place JavaScript files at the bottom of the page so they don't render or block rendering of the HTML. All right, so here, this is the modernizer stuff, but our actual JavaScript is down here, along with our associated bootstrap. So the layout view is in the _layout.cshtml file in the shared view folder, similar to a master page. The _viewstart.cshtml file is in the views folder. That's similar to setting the master page for the application in the web.config file. The render body and render section razor methods are similar to master page content placeholders, and the styles.render and scripts.render are similar to link tags or script tags to add those particular types of files. Now next, on pages 884 and 885 is figure 2510, and this figure right here on the screen shows the home page of the shopping cart application along with the controller method and the view that produced it. The index action method in this figure returns a view result object in response to a GET request. As there are no other action methods named index, you don't have to add the HTTP GET attribute. But if you do add it, it makes it clear exactly what you're trying to do. What the heck does that mean? That means if we go over and we look at the code that's here, let's stop the run. And if we look at the home page, so I want to go over here, what that's for, controllers. In fact, let's go to views here, home. And there's our index.cshtml. Try to bring that up. There it is. And you can see what it has here. This should look familiar to you. There's our Jumbotron, getting started, etc. So that's all the stuff on the home page. This method loads string data into what are called the view bag and view data objects. View data is a dictionary collection that stores data in key value pairs, where the key is a string data type and the value is stored as an object data type. The view bag is a dynamic object, which means that you can add things to it as the program's running. One thing to note about the index action method is that it loads hard-coded strings as data. Now this is to keep the example simple, but in real life, you probably wouldn't want to hard code it. You'd probably, especially, you'd be wanting to get it possibly from, it could be anything, all right? The index.cshtml file here is located in the home subfolder of the views folder. That's because it's associated with the index action method of the home controller. The view starts with a block of Razor code up here at the top that contains the view bag title property assignment. Next, the view works with the data sent to it by the action method of the controller and the variable declared in the opening block. It adds the header text of the view bag property. Okay, it adds that header text in an H1 tag. Then it adds the day variable using binding. Finally, it adds the footer text. Now, the next thing that's discussed in our book here is a strongly typed view. And this is figure 25-11 on pages 886 and 887. So this shows the Contact Us page of the shopping cart MVC app, along with the controller action in the view that produced it. Like what we saw in the previous figure, the contact action method returns a view result object in response to a GET request. Unlike the index, though, the contact method doesn't use the view bag or the view data objects. So again, we can come down and we can come into here, and as we just did, there was the home, and we can look at the contact. You can notice that how much shorter it is. The contact file in this figure is located in the home folder of the views folder because, again, it's associated with the contact action method of the home controller. This is a strongly typed view. What makes it a strongly typed view and makes it different from the other one is the model directive that's at the top of the file. This directive identifies the type of object in the model property, all right, which is what allows Visual Studio to provide the IntelliSense support. So here was the other one, and here is the extra information that we've added. Most of the time, you'll make a strongly typed view when you create it using the procedure described back in 25.8, which was in the how to create a view. but you can also make a regular view strongly typed by adding the @model directive. Now, what's interesting is I've got here home, contact, contact.cshtml. What I don't see here is what they show in the book. This is not my example. This is the book's example. To my knowledge, I'm not running my own example. Maybe I am. That's the problem, I bet. There it is. That's what makes it a strongly typed model. I apologize. I was showing the product or the example that I created as opposed to the one that's in the book. So I apologize for that. So here was the actual home one. All right. Not much in there. So I can remove the other one. So that's the one that's in the project, both the home view and the contact view. So the model property contains the object that was passed into the view method. A strongly typed view uses the @model directive, and again, that provides IntelliSense report or support. All right. Sorry about that. All right. There it was. So we looked at layout views, we looked at regular views, we looked at strongly typed views. The rest of the chapter talks about how to work with controls and postbacks, and there are 2, 4, 6, 8 pages left in here and about 15 slides. So I'm going to hopefully conclude the rest of this in the next lecture.